What's up, guys? It's Chad. Welcome back to the Dorky and 40 RC channel. And today we're going to build what I consider to be one of the best shocks that you could probably build for an RC crawler. And that is going to be the modified Mini T spring version of a Traxxas 2660 shock. Now, the high-end shock that people like to go with is the deluxe DraftX, which are machined and everything. But the thing that's beautiful is that they actually have the innards of these inside of them, and that's really what is important. So at half the cost, you can get literally, I think, almost 80% of the shock, and that's a big deal to me. The other thing is the parts that you're going to need, just the Traxxas 2660s and these shock caps that are a little bit easier, that have these ball ends inside of them, and the Mini T springs are available nearly at every hobby shop. So you can start off by buying a pair, or you can buy all of them at once. And again, you're going to be looking at least half the price of a set of DraftX. And the DraftX you'll have to build yourself, or you have to pay an extra fee to build them. So what you will want to do, if you want to get this Mini T thing to work, and the Mini T, of course, is a little miniature buggy that uses different springs, and you buy this spring set that has a soft, medium, and a firm spring. Most people run the soft pink ones up front and maybe a medium or a firm in the back, and then you can use these included cups to retain your springs on the bottom, or you can 3D print out some of your own zero droop or droop setting bottom spring retainers as well. So I'm using these in the zero droop configuration right now. I'll run them upside down, so that way I'll really never have to worry about losing oil or anything at all. Currently, both of my rigs have the Desert Lizard shock on them, which are a great shock, and they're even like half the price of these for a total pair, I believe. Maybe it's close. The thing about the Desert Lizard, though, is they're a little bit more complicated to build. Not really, but they are. And all of your fluid and spring and everything is encapsulated inside of the shock body. So if you want to play around with your tuning and all that kind of stuff, like changing springs, even though they come with an amazing amount of hardware, springs, and pistons inside the Desert Lizard box, you have to start all over again from scratch, filling everything else just to change out some springs if you want to try something else. So that's what makes these great, is that you really don't have to worry about fluid once you get your fluid right. And all you got to do is just take off your rod end, change your spring, remount them, and you're good to go for some tuning. So let's build one of these here real quick. There's a lot of different videos on how to build them. I tend to build mine, I think, the Crawler Canyon way, which seems to be the easiest that I have seen. Very, very good YouTube channel. He does a really long form content, which I don't mind, but I know some people do not get into the entire long form. So you take your 2660 shock, and you're going to take off the actual end that we're not going to use. But inside of there is actually a bladder that we are going to need. So you want to carefully remove the bladder that is inside of there. It's like that. And then you can set that cap to the side. And then we got two bladders that we'll be using with the tube replacement caps. Now, I've already built the front ones that you can see right here. These are going to be my rear shocks. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put just a little bit of oil inside of here. Not a lot, just so that way when you move the piston around just slightly, there's going to be something in there for you to actually play with, and you're not going to get stuck. So once you get through that step, what you're going to do is you're going to compress the piston about halfway, and then you are going to fill the shock up basically all the way to the top, and then hold on to the shock body and then pull this thing straight down. You're going to see all the bubbles come to the top like that, and that right there should be good enough for us to not worry about having any more air inside of there. But what we'll do now is we'll just go ahead and fill the shock up pretty much all the way to the top, and then we'll just go ahead and cycle it a couple times, twisting the body just to make sure that there's not any air in there. And then we will just go ahead and set it to the side over here for a few minutes and make sure that all of the air comes to the top. So the next thing I like to do is take my bladders and just put a little bit of oil on them just to make them a little bit easier to deal with, so that way they can maneuver around and stick a little bit. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to encapsulate the bladder inside of this at once. The way these shocks work with the bladder is that it basically pops up and down as the shock goes up, and then it comes back down, and it creates the perfect amount of air gap inside there that we need in order to get our shocks to perform properly. So this shock here is almost filled up to the top. I'm going to put just a little bit more oil in there, and this is probably the most difficult part, but it's actually pretty simple. You want to make sure that you got your cap ready and that you got your bladder ready. And what we're going to do is we are going to put the bladder up on top here, and we are going to just lightly hold on to it, and we are going to push the shock shaft up about halfway, and we're going to get some oil that's going to start coming all over the place. And once we are to that point and we're pretty happy with everything and the bladder is even, we are going to pull down on that, and it's literally just sucks that bladder right down, right where we need it to go. And then all we're going to do is just screw on our shock cap, grab our shock pliers here, make sure you got a good grip on everything, and then we'll go through and make sure that everything is good and tight. Obviously, you don't want to over tighten and tweak these things, so be slightly gentle on the entire process. So I'm pretty happy with that right there. And then if we check out the shock, we'll see that it is nearly a dead shock. We get a little bit of pull back at the beginning, and we'll get a little bit of pushback at the end. That's basically just the bladder doing its thing inside of there. And that literally is the perfect shock now. That's exactly how I've seen them work. That's how I've been told to build them. And that is how I am building mine and not having any issue at all. So then from here, all we need to do is take off the thread end. We're going to put the spring on there, and then we will put the retainer on there and the spring end, and then we'll end up with a puppy that looks just like that right there. So that is really simple, effective, really cannot get any easier. So hopefully this helps a few of you guys out. I know this is kind of like old stuff, all new for me, but hey, if I'm going to do it, I might as well show you how to do it too, and maybe inspire a few of you new crawler guys to go out and create yourself some awesome shocks. So we will talk to you guys later. Peace.